Hi everyone. Good morning. I know it's an early morning for all of us. Friday night and whatnot. I think a lot of people had fun. Just happy to see you guys all here. And I'm Adrian from DFX, obviously, one of the co-founders. And what we do is we want to build stablecoin ecosystem for the rest of the world. So focusing more on like non-USD stablecoins and things like that. But today, I'm just going to start off talking about the history of stablecoins. So it's kind of like where it all came from and what it's all about. It's a fascinating story. I hope you guys enjoy it. So going back, there's always been like an ancient need for stability, right? Like we don't want volatile materials. People want to be able to like trade and have that commerce, right? That's kind of like the point of money. So if your currency fluctuates up and down too much, that's not something that's good. We see that in many countries, and this is something that's really necessary. Now, it's particularly stable coins, right? It's actually something that's been around since before the Ethereum blockchain as well. There's been many attempts at this, and one of the bigger ones back in 2014 was Nubits. Who's heard of Nubits here? Okay, two people. Great. It's good. It's always good to gauge the audience level. So at least I'm bringing something new to the table. Who wants to hear about the same shit all over again, right? All right. So it's one of the oldest stable coins. It's actually algorithmic backing, two-token system. Sounds a lot like Terra or Luna, but it was on its own chain. It was actually depegged 3 times. I think it lasted for quite a few years, and it's dead now. So it's not that important, but it's good to know, right? The stable coins, people have been thinking about it for a long time. Now, one of the more popular ones are the fiat-backed stable coins, right? We're talking about stable coins that are, the most stable, and they're used by many centralized exchanges. Bitfinex obviously started their really popular USDT, or Tether, as they call it, back in 2014. Circle started USDC in 2018. And these are stablecoins that promise to have one-to-one redeemability, right? They basically say that it's backed by cash and cash equivalents or short-term treasury bonds. The idea is that whenever you hold these, you should have the same confidence that you're always able to get like actual US dollars from them, right? These two particular tokens have very different histories. Circle has a lot of association with Coinbase, for example, and they also have a very different culture, right? Bitfinex started off when there was all these crazy exchanges back in the old days, right? Centralized exchanges back then was kind of like almost like dApp protocols today. Like everyone was spinning up a centralized exchange. And back then, like not a lot of people used USDT, but then over time, people realized that the benefit of having a token that allows you to have that stability, and it's also based off of a big exchange that people know and have heard of. Right? Of course, the controversy with Bitfinex and Tether is that a lot of people say that they've been sued, they've been having all these issues about do they really have the redeemability, because they keep printing billions of it and then just like pumping it on the market, right? So Circle is a little bit different. Their CEO is Jeremy Allaire, and he's like testified in Congress and all that. They publish attestation reports from like third-party auditors like basically every month. So it's really interesting how like you have the same technology essentially, but it's taking 2 different paths, right? So this kind of forms the basis of a lot of the stability or stable coins in our ecosystem today. So the second kind of stablecoins is crypto-backed stablecoins, right? We have the DAI from MakerDAO, and maybe not so popular these days, but synthetic USD from Synthetics. I would say MakerDAO was actually a huge revelation for me back in, I think they released a white paper in 2015 or so. The whole idea is that you can put in ETH, you deposit your Ether, and then let's say $200 of Ether, and then you can just print a bunch of DAI or DAI tokens that are supposed to be worth $1 each. So, you're basically borrowing DAI with the collateral of Ether. And then this like whole lending, depositing, and borrowing, it's going to be really important later on. But it really created this system where you had this over-collateralization of cryptocurrencies, right? And then you had some trust in its ability to hold its value. Of course, however, if the price of ETH drops 90%, then you're going to have an issue. And what happens is there's a liquidation system to make sure that, let's say if you put in $200 of ETH and you borrow or create $100 of DAI, the idea is that like there's a liquidation, there's a minimum collateralization ratio. Let's say it goes down 150%. So if your collateral is like under $150, then boom, someone's gonna liquidate your position. You know, that's the way the system works to kind of make sure that it stays collateralized. But there's always like a risk of losing a lot of that collateral in the system. But more importantly, why I put up synthetics here is that they actually pioneered liquidity mining, or what people know as farming these days on Uniswap V1. And in those days, this was quite an interesting thing, because like the whole idea that you can park your money somewhere and get like a reward token, that was something that really like took the world, the crypto world, by storm, and there was a lot of activity, and it really gave rise to later on the farming craze, DeFi summer, and what we know now as like just general liquidity mining and getting yield, right? All right, so yield-producing stablecoins is also another type of stablecoin that comes from lending protocols. Compound Finance is one of the first successful lending protocols. Aave is a close second, I would say, or maybe even more popular today than Compound was. But by depositing, you actually receive like receipt tokens. I know maybe a lot of us went out to the club last night. Maybe there was a coat check. When you put in your coat, you get a ticket to like get your coat back, right? Very similar. Trying to make it relatable here. Basically you put in your collateral or whatever it is you want to lend to the protocol, like USDC, USDT, or DAI, and they give you a C DAI or a CUSD. And then if you ever want to get your collateral back, then you just deposit that token back, right? Or if you want to give your position to someone else, then you can pass these tokens around, right? So these are, some people call them like LP tokens, or in this case, these are C tokens, because of just that's how they name them. But these things are basically just as good as stable coins, except you actually also earn yield because you're depositing into a protocol that rewards you for depositing in. So maybe, I don't know, whatever percentage that they have these days, like 3 or 4%. So you can actually trade these C tokens and have this really interesting composability thing that you can do here. So it kickstarted the whole age of yield-producing stables by holding these things. You're basically you're holding a token that's like a savings account in and of itself. Now, before we go further, we have to talk a bit about Curve Finance. Who here is familiar with Curve Finance? I think a lot more people. Yes. Yeah. So for those who aren't, I think it's really cool to look at the logo and just admire the colors that are there. Especially on an early morning like today. It's just like, it's like 3D, and it's like this like, geometrical thing. And it just makes you feel really smart, Like when you see that little thing in the tab, I don't know, I got 50 tabs, so you can barely see it, but, it like makes you feel like you're doing some like math and some finance thing, some finance shit. We're all big brain here, right? So anyways, we got decentralized exchange. Is kind of like a Uniswap in and of itself. You can swap between tokens, but it's optimized for like value things. So you have like different stable coins, like I said, USDC or USDT. They're all supposed to be worth $1. So you just put these things into a pool, and people can swap between them, right? The way that it's more optimized is that there's a bonding curve, and there's a flat part of the bonding curve that makes it more efficient. And these are really big words that probably mean nothing to you if it's without a fancy line on the PowerPoint here, but just know that it's optimized for like-valued pairs. Now, so LPs, or liquidity providers, are people who put money into these pools, right? They put money into them, and they actually get a portion of the swap fees, as well as these Curve tokens, or CRV tokens, right? So it makes sense to get the swap fees. Is that you're putting money in, and then people are like trading, right? It's kind of like, this is how AMMs work, right? Automated market makers. I hope you guys are all like pretty acquainted with that. But so like swap fees, we'll actually get into this in the next couple of slides, but swap fees are a small portion, but like what's really interesting are like these CRV tokens, right? Which they just print out of thin air, right? But like, hey, these are funny tokens that have like great colors, so like why not, right? And then what's even crazier and almost a little bit circular is that you get a boosted yield if you lock up these Curve tokens. So instead of dumping these tokens on the open market, you can actually lock them up and then get even more Curve tokens. So you can kind of see how it gets a little bit circular here, right? I'm not going to put any labels on that, but it's all just a circle of fun, let's say, right? here's like a pretty old screenshot that I found online on like different pools that Curve has, right? On the top here, you can see that the most famous pool is the 3 pool. It has like those 3 biggest, 3 really popular stablecoins that we talked about previously. It has the DAI, the crypto-backed stablecoin, and also the 2 biggest fiat-backed stablecoins, the USDC and USDT. In the second column here, you see the base APY. This is like, these are numbers that are more sensible. Ignore the second line, right? But like these are all like 0.5%, 0.8%. This is like what you would expect. Like if people are just swapping between the tokens in a pool and you get a reward from it, you get a small cut, because you're supplying liquidity to an exchange, right? That makes a lot of sense. But what really blows everyone's mind are these reward APYs, right? How the hell are you getting like 11%, 30%, 35%? Like, where's all this money coming from? Well, the answer is that they just mint it out of thin air, right? It's just like, here's some funny tokens, and then they're just like giving it to you. And it's like, well, what are these Chuck E. Cheese tokens? I'm like, I don't know, but you can trade them on the market, and they're worth something. So we're all having fun, right? Again, going back to the circle of fun here. It's like, it's a good time. It's a good time. But what's interesting is it's also a range, right? Basically, that's the range that you get depending on how much Curve tokens that you lock up. So if you don't lock up any Curve tokens, you get the bottom of that range, 11%. Oh my God, that's terrible, right? Like you can't only get 11% off your stable coins, right? I mean, what does the bank give me, right? I don't know, 0.5%. But if you lock up a whole bunch of Curve tokens, maybe like for 4 years, then you can get like 30%. Or like these are a little bit outdated. I think that the yields are a little lower now, but like not that much lower. So I hope like this kind of gives you like a primer to like the craziness that Curve brings to the table. This also leads into something called the Curve Wars, which I'm not going to get into today, but it's completely fascinating, and I think maybe I'll do another talk on that next time. But anyway, these are the APY percentages that you get from farming. All right, so remember how like before we talked about you can place tokens into an exchange or a lending platform or whatever, and then they give you like a token as a receipt token, right? So that very popular 3 pool token that we talked about on Curve, you can put in your DAI, your USDT, USDC, and you get something called the 3 Curve token, which is basically a tokenization of what you are entitled to in the 3 Curve pool, right? And so the 3 Curve token is great because it gives you the ability to have a little bit of yield, and also it gives you, access to, it's worth basically the stability of these 3 stable coins, right? But if we go back to what we talked about here, these funny APY numbers, right? What do you get for that, right? You'll see that at the end of that, it's like these are all Curve tokens that you get. So these these percentages actually go up and down depending on the price of Curve, of these CRV tokens, right? So it's like, sure, today you're getting 30%, like, based on the price of that Curve token, but if the price of Curve token like just plummets, then you're not getting 30%. You could be getting 0, right? If no one wants to buy your Curve tokens. So having these Curve token rewards mean you are exposed to price liquidity, price volatility. Sorry, it's a little early for me. And so there's an issue, right? So how do we get around that? Well, we're going to compose even further. We're going to call upon something called Yearn or Yearn. I don't know how to pronounce things. I just stay on the computer, so I never talk to humans. So I'm just like, Yearn. That's what I'm calling it. You can disagree with me. I like GIFs as well. But Yearn automates this whole farm and dump for you, or it can. One of the strategies, it basically will help you take those Curve tokens, those reward tokens, and dump it for you on like a regular basis. So you are like basically dollar cost averaging out your rewards, and then so you're not going to be as exposed to that price volatility. And the other thing that it does is actually boosts yield from locked up Curve as well. So like you don't want to lock up a bunch of Curve tokens for 4 years. Like what the hell am I going to do 4 years later? Maybe I'm not even in crypto. Maybe I'm dead, right? Who knows, right? Probably like in St. Kitts and Nevis, like escaping from the authorities or something. So like you want to have that, you don't want to lock up stuff, right? But because they're able to socialize, socialism, we don't like that, right? So we were able to socialize a lot of this, farming here. We actually get like gas efficiency because you're not having to claim and dump it every 12 hours. Like the protocol's doing it for everyone. But also like it also locks up a portion of it, so you get that boosted yield as well that you wouldn't get, right? So um, as a return for that, the protocol takes a cut of the profits, and then some of the profits go to the YFI token holders. The most popular, Yearn, is not that popular these days compared to like the big player, which is Convex, right? Convex, I don't have a slide for that here, but they're basically doing the same thing, but on a much larger scale, and they actually bought up a whole bunch of Curve, so they basically own Curve as well. So this is all very composable, as you can see, right? We started all the way back here, right, with these fiat-backed stablecoins, and we had these like funny crypto-backed stablecoins, and then we had this Curve finance thing. You put your tokens in there, you get a 3 Curve token, and then now you have a Y3 Curve token, which is like the tokenization of your position in Yearn, which has a tokenization of your position in Curve, which is just a pool of 3 tokens that some of which are crypto-backed, some of which are fiat-backed, right? That's pretty clear, right? I think that's pretty simple. Is there any reason why like mainstream people, like people on the street, aren't doing this? I don't know, right? It's free money. It just blows my mind. Like, I don't know, leaving money on the table, right? Anyway. Let's take a break and talk about algo stables, right? Like that stuff before, that was too simple. It's too easy, right? You guys are all like snoring here. So something like, we talked about earlier was Nubits, right? Where they use different incentives to actually change, hopefully affect the price of a particular stablecoin. And the way it works is, from Wikipedia, an algo-backed stablecoin, or actually a lot of them are seigniorage type stablecoins. There are these adjustments that are made on chain, right? There's no collateral. It's not really backed by anything at all, right? No collateral is needed to mint these tokens. And the value is controlled by like supply and demand, Econ 101, like using algorithms and like, stabilize the price. Big words again, right? So, but basically, it all comes down to a very simple aspect of like, how do I pump this token if it's under $1? And how do I like dump this token if it's $1, right? That's the entire like field of algo-backed stablecoins, and there's just different ways to do it. We have a fancy little latex drawing here to make us all feel really good about ourselves before noon on a Saturday morning. I think I already feel super productive. I hope you guys feel that way too. Anyway, algo stable. Let's go. Right. So one of the big algo stables that was launched in the last few years was the Ampleforth. So they did a really cool thing, which was they had this elastic supply model, right? Like, so if the price goes over $1, it's oh no, like this is supposed to be $1. So how do we bring the price down? Well, supply and demand. We just print more and just give everyone more. So like if you had your little wallet, you had like 10 Ample tokens, and then for some reason your Ample tokens were worth $2. And so like, okay, well, why don't we just give everyone twice the amount? Wow, like whoa! Now it's just now one Apple token is worth $1 because I just like printed more, right, out of thin air. And you can do that on chain because everything is a centralized ledger. You're just basically, changing a number on a spreadsheet. Essentially, it's like, it's Chuck E. Cheese tokens. Like I'm telling you, like this token is now worth this much, or I'm just giving you more tokens. If the price is lower than $1, right, then you can take some from everyone else, right? Now it's more scarce, right? Supply and demand again, right? So this is crazy, and like Yam did the same thing, but with they were actually doing a little bit more with the governance side of things, but it was essentially the same idea, and it started this whole food emoji farming craze that I originally had a slide for, but I had to delete it because I was scared I would go over time, but maybe I'll just still talk about it regardless. But in DeFi summer, they call it. Who knows about DeFi summer? Oh, okay, so not everyone, but maybe I'll go into it a little bit, but DeFi summer was this. And I think the summer of 2020, August 2020, like Yam kind of kick-started it, and then all these people started posting like food emojis, right? It was like these food farms, they call it, and then there'd be like Yam finance, kimchi finance, hot dog finance, pickle finance, and then all of it was just like, oh, we're gonna make this token. If you park your money with us, then we'll give you even more of this token. And again, now we're back to that circular thing again. It's all the circle of fun, right? Circle of fun is that's what the DeFi is really based on. But that actually really did kick off a lot of innovation as well, because it got a lot of people to build projects, break projects, hack projects. A lot of people lost money, including myself. You didn't hear that from me. That's great and all, but going back to our original topic of these algo stables and how these seigniorage coins work, right? One of the things that is really problematic is that it breaks composability, right? Imagine if you pull out your wallet and then one day it's, there's 5 tokens in there, and then you pull it out the next day, you're like, oh, now there's like 8 tokens. And then the next day you pull out your wallet, it's like now there's 2 tokens, and you're like, what the hell? Like, what am I gonna do with this, right? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, like if you try to build stuff on top of it, you're gonna have a lot of huge issues if your balances keep changing. So ESD came along, the empty set dollar, another financial innovation, like or a financial experiment, as they used to like to call it at the time. It's like, oh, don't put your money in here. We're just experimenting here. You know, like we're not trying to make money. You know, do your own research, DYOR, not financial advice, all that stuff. So this is great because they had really good branding. I mean, just look at that circle, right? It's perfect concentric circles. You can't lose. Empty set. I mean, like if anyone has like done like a little bit of computer science, oh, like empty set. It's like a set of nothing. You know, like, wow, it's a circle. Like, it's kind of like my life. You know, but hey, you know, regardless of that, like what's their innovation in this space, right? Well, rather than directly adjusting the supply, like how many coins you have in your wallet, it uses different incentives to push the price up and down instead. So if the price is like over $1, people who actually lock up their ESD will get printed more ESD. So like, let's say you lock up your $100 worth of ESD, and then you know, the price is up. So then because you locked it up for a week or whatever, then we're giving you like an extra 20, for example. And then people who have their stuff unlocked, then they're able to take out their money and then sell it on the open market. Right? And then if the price is less than $1, people can buy coupons that allow them to buy future ESD at a discount. Right? You can kind of see the economics, or some people call it the Ponzi-nomics of this, right? Like it's like you're trying to get people to like hold on to those tokens, right? Or at least hope to hold on to the future tokens in a way so that we will have these incentives that balance out that dollar price. And this is really interesting, and it totally didn't work at all. But it was a great time while it lasted, and it really really just gave us a lot of fun, and some people a lot of money, and some people a lot of loss. But who's counting? Now, there's also other kind of stable coins here. We have the Impossible Trinity. I'm not going to get into this too much, but on the left side are a lot of like those dollar-pegged stable coins we talked about. There's also non-pegged stable coins where they're trying to use as PID controller to just have something that's smooth. Because it's like, a lot of people are like, well, oh, we're in crypto. Why are we talking about the US dollar? Why are we talking about the fiat currencies? We shouldn't even be talking about that, because in the future, we're going to use this other thing that's going to be way better, and we're not going to count in dollars anymore, right? So Messari, a great organization, a lot of research, a very big brain, they made this little triangle, and I just thought that sharing this with you would make us all feel very smart. Okay, so how can these algo stables reconcile with fiat, right? So one of the things that I think is really interesting here is the Frax model. It has the best of both worlds. It has the stability of fiat-backed stablecoins, like the one-to-one redeemable ones, but also dynamic liquidity of algo stables, right? Right? With fiat-backed stablecoins, they're really stable because you can redeem them for an actual dollar, right? But the problem with that is if there's like a big need for it, if you want like a lot of it, you can't do that because you have to wait for someone to actually deposit money into a bank account, and then like they would print you these stablecoins, right? But if you have a fractionally backed stablecoin, right? Like these algo stables, the best thing they can do, the most amazing thing about them is that they can be printed like on demand, right? So we have the dynamic liquidity of stablecoins, but also a backstop of stability because it's partially backed by these fiat-backed stablecoins, right? So the way it started was like you have this Frax token, supposed to be $1, started off as 100% backed by USDC, very stable, great. But like gradually they lowered the backing ratio to 85%. Which is what it is now, but they have that float in between. So like 15%, it's backed by their own governance token, essentially, the FXS token. Whereas that means like if there's like a significant demand in that stablecoin, they have that float to like basically print more, right? So I think that's really interesting, and it's an idea that needs a little bit more exploring as well. Now, but why only USD, right? There's 7 billion people on this planet that doesn't live in America, including myself and most of my team here. Many of us are Canadian or Australian. But like, it's something to really think about, right? And that's kind of what we at DFX are trying to do here, right? We want to bootstrap the non-USD stablecoin ecosystem so that we can, all those funny tokens, all that crazy funny stuff that we talked about, the circular stuff, blah, blah, blah. Like, I think that stuff should exist in other currencies as well, right? And there's no reason why it can't. It's just deploying smart contracts, right? So what we started doing first, we actually created an AMM, like a Uniswap type of thing, but optimized for Forex trading, right? we take on-chain price feeds from a chain link and we give them like efficient swaps so that they're able to swap from like, let's say, the USDC to like CADC with the USDC equivalent in Canada, right? And then so we kind of took a lot of inspiration from Curve and Shell protocol so that we have that flat part as well. So it's really efficient, but that flat part actually dynamically adjusts based on the real life spot prices in the Forex markets. The next thing that we're doing, and really the reason why I'm here, is we're talking about these fractional algo stables that we're going to do, right? So that Frax model, we want to do that for the rest of the stablecoins that we have as well, right? And then in the future, we'll do lending markets and stuff like that. That's it's even more big brain. I probably need some time to look into that, maybe not on a Saturday morning. But anyway, we're going to do other stuff. Now, these are some of the fiat-backed stables around the world. We have the Canadian dollar there, the euro, the Singaporean dollar, the Turkish lira, New Zealand dollar, Indonesian rupiah. Okay, these are all fiat-backed stablecoins with on-off ramps in their local jurisdiction. So payment rails, like basically their equivalent of like Venmo. So like the idea is that we want to be able to make it so it's super easy for people in those countries to get their money onto crypto, and then we allow people to swap between these tokens as well. But there just isn't that much liquidity, right? Like so that's kind of why we're trying to do this thing with the Frax model, right? And the first thing we're going to try to do is this DFX CAD. DFX CAD, what is it other than a fancy logo that our community manager made? I think I have one more slide on it. I'll try to do my best. But basically, starting with the Canadian dollar, we want to try to expand that DeFi stack, right? And we took a lot of inspiration from Frax, and it's going to be, instead of backed by USDC, it's going to be backed by CADC, and we're going to basically have that float as well because we want that dynamic liquidity. We're seeing, a lot of people not being able to get certain tokens when it's being farmed, like EURS, for example. That was a really big farm on Curve, and then being able to print that is really useful. You have that dynamic liquidity, and the idea is to do like a DFX CAD, DFX EUR, backed by like the industry standard as like the most stable stablecoins out there. And then if we can have a bunch of this stuff, we can put them all together into like a basket, like special drawing rights, right? Like you have like a basket of all stables, because again, we keep talking about hyperinflation and stuff about the U.S. dollar. Well, how about maybe we should diversify a little bit with other currencies, maybe in other jurisdictions that don't print as much, let's say. I think that makes a lot of sense as well. Anyway, that's liquidity mining for this is actually going to start off really soon. If you're really curious about it, you can go to, you can actually mint and burn them right now at x.dfx.finance. Unfortunately, I don't think we have the link up here, but do follow us on Twitter or just talk to me, I guess, and get on our Discord if you want to learn more. But yeah, there's going to be more to come as well. But our first step is trying to test this experiment out with the Canadian dollar. We're getting it audited. It's all like going through the process. But there's no reason why we can't have Singaporean dollar, Japanese yen, British pound, Australian dollar, all that good stuff. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the talk. It's first talk of the day. I know we're all just getting ready for all the excitement that we're going to have, and I took away a lot of your attention and energy already. So thank you very much, and yeah, talk to me if you have any questions. Thank you.